Hi, everyone. So, this is the self awareness exercise that I'm posting for January 4th to January 10th. Now, the cards that we're being asked to use are Overwhelm, Quantum Leap of Faith, and If You Were on Vacation. So, this is how they read. Overwhelm is a state of system overload. When we're in it, doing the simplest tasks seem daunting. Dealing with emotional situations seems impossible. It feels as though just one more thing will be the straw that breaks the camel's back, causing us to implode, explode, or to disintegrate. Going into a state of overwhelm tends to happen progressively, even though it often feels as though it's a sudden event that produced it. Can you detect the buildup and self-correct before your system does it by shutting down? So that's what you're being asked to consider as a point of reflection. So this might be something that you relate only to this week, but keep in mind that it's progressive. So you might want to check in and see whether or not there is something building up for you. Or you might find yourself reflecting over periods of time when you went into overwhelm gradually, but you didn't really notice or pay attention to the red flags that were telling you it was happening. Keep in mind that shutdown doesn't have to be a big health crisis, although it can be a health crisis. It can be moving more into a state of anxiety. It can be stopping to ceasing to rest when you are actually sleeping or being able to sleep. It can be feeling like you just need to shut away from activity. And this also, I think overwhelm is a really interesting card to get now, just after the holidays, when many of us have been overwhelmed with lots of social activity, indulgence in food, perhaps liquor, different things like that, that can really stress the system without us knowing it because they're things that we associate with positive. Check in with that. Now, the energy that we're being asked to embrace this week is Quantum Leap of Faith. This means that beyond logical expectation, beyond the linear projections of our minds, there is a place of free fall. Here you trust that what feels like leaping into the unknown void is really sailing on the winds of the infinite, unlimited benevolence, which will guide you wisely to your best and most graceful landing. Well, that kind of makes sense, really, when you think about it. If what we're asking for is, or if we're looking at overwhelm and where we might be going into overwhelm, Quantum Leap of Faith, that sense of, I can take a breath. There is something bigger than me. I can relax. I can take the load off. So look at that energy that you're being asked to embrace and embody. Now, the awareness activity I love. It's on vacation. Today, pretend that you're on vacation in a foreign place. Look at everything and everyone as though you're seeing them for the first time and trust that everything is a potential adventure. What differences do you notice visually? How does it change your interaction with clerks, people on the street, how you choose your food, transportation, and clothes? I'm going to give you a little story on this because I think it's relevant in terms of how you might apply it, especially if you're dealing with overwhelm. The first big vacation that I really went on that was kind of exotic was back in 1990, and I went to Cuba with a friend of mine. And that is the first time as an adult where I was really aware of the fact that I was absolutely and totally fully in the present. My mind wasn't wandering off. I wasn't worrying about other things. I was so fully engaged in the beauty of the flowers of the ocean. I'd never seen a tropical ocean before. And I'd never been to the tropics in any way, so everything was amazing. The people were friendly. Everybody was smiling. And I found myself responding to them in a way that I didn't when I was at home in Montreal. When I got back to Montreal, I was horribly depressed. It was April. It was raining. It was still cold. Everything was gray. And I suddenly realized that if I were to suddenly stop being who I was and be who I was when I was on vacation, things would feel very different. So I said, what if this wasn't downtown Montreal? I would be more inclined to meet people in the eye. I would be more inclined to smile because I wouldn't be worried that people would think I was coming onto them or picking them up or whatever. All of a sudden, I was looking at the buildings differently and I was seeing architecture. I was looking at them as though I was on vacation and I was seeing things I'd never noticed before. I was friendlier because I was acting as though I was on vacation and I was happy to meet people and greet people and get to know them. And all of a sudden, my dynamic with everybody changed and I saw that concrete place with eyes of beauty, and I saw these people with eyes of appreciation that I hadn't before. So I think when we do that very often, that the whole energy lifts, right? Because you're looking at things with generally positive expectation and with a desire to engage in a friendly way, in an interested way. And what that will often help us do is really let go of whatever heavy energy we've got. If we could take every day, even if just for a little while, we applied that idea of if I were on vacation today, how would I be acting differently? That can really take us out of that sense of overwhelm that we often feel because that comes from our daily lives. That comes from habits and things that we feel obliged to do, whether we are or not. And it can often just come from a pattern of thinking which overwhelms us. So I think those are fantastic cards to experiment with this week. Please remember, keep an eye out for overwhelm as it shows up or as it has shown up and how it might be building, and then use Quantum Leap of Faith and vacation as a way to intervene on your own behalf to come out of that. And you may not feel an overwhelm, in which case, fantastic, but you might have at some point. And you might want to consider how things could have been different had you been able to look at the situation differently. Okay? So that, my friends, is the awareness activity for January 4th to January 10th. Have fun with that. I think this could be a really, really fun week and also potentially extremely healing. So that's it. Take care. And I'll be back with a debrief on this one in about a week's time. Take care.